Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some pro-revenge stories today, and our first story of the day is by Moby1 Kenobi 786, How We Destroyed Our Teacher and Principal. Apologies in advance if some details are blurry, as this happened almost 14 years ago. Also, this is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I swear the result is worth it, at least it is to me. The beginning. It all started when I, 25-year-old male, was 12 years old. My grade 7 teacher, 46-year-old man at the time, was infamous for being intimidating and, in my opinion, abusive to his students. He was the disciplinarian of the school. He was in charge of keeping track of detentions and announcing who will be sitting every Friday during assembly. We suspected at the time that the reason why he never got fired was either because his students were too scared to report him, or because of the fact that the principal was his brother-in-law. Reasons why I hated him: he was constantly making vaguely discriminative remarks, complaining about the new South Africa, and constantly bringing up how his life was better during the apartheid regime. He's a white guy who was raised on a farm. I have always felt like he had an issue with me as a person because I'm a practicing Muslim. He would make the class laugh at how funny Muslim women looked with their heads wrapped up. His jokes about Muslims missing out on eating bacon were endless. In fact, he one day purposely stood in front of my desk eating a cheese and bacon panini. He used to often rant about how the school is no longer a pure Christian institution as it once was back in the day. He would say these things and glance at either me, my twin sister, or the black students in the class who practiced their own African religions. When it was his birthday, my mom encouraged me to buy him a gift. I spent of my pocket money, which was already limited. My parents didn't believe in allowances, to buy him a big slab of chocolate and a long piece of drawers, dried sausage. Throughout the day, he would get gifts from students in his class and others. He would get up from his desk to greet and thank them and then shake their hand. I remember noticing this because I always found it weird when students shook hands with teachers because of how small our hands were compared to theirs. However, when I gave him my gift, all he did was look at me for like a second, look away, and nod his head slightly. I remember being thankful for not offering my hand out for him to shake because I thought he might have ignored it in front of the entire class. To say I felt like crap is an understatement. The experience that made me hate him the most happened just before we wrote second or third term exams. I was walking with my friend David, fake name, back from the tuck shop during interval. We took a shortcut between the English and Afrikaans kindergarten classes and saw a group of boys huddled together. One of them walked towards us and I saw that he had one of those camping multi-tools with the folding knife out and instantly got a fright. He told us, "Give me your stuff before I hurt your neck," and then started laughing and walked back to his friends. It was clearly a joke, but David looked close to tears and I had a very bad fright because of what he'd done. I told the guy, fake name Xander, that he's not allowed to have knives at school and that I'm going to tell my teacher. We walked straight to our teacher, and when we spoke to him, David burst into tears. We told him what happened and David was sobbing when he felt like he was going to get hurt. Our teacher barely looked up from his computer while we were speaking, and when he asked for the guy's name, we told him the name and he said he will deal with it and for us to go out for interval again. I went home and told my mom, who I felt didn't fully believe me at the time. The next day, we saw Xander. We were basically making fun of him for getting into trouble with our teacher and likely getting expelled at worst or sitting a Saturday detention at best. He laughed back at us and said our teacher just came to his class, asked to speak with them, and told them to never bring it to school again. No detention, no suspension, basically nothing. He still had the knife on him for the rest of the day before. We were so upset, we went back to our teacher and I told him that Xander said that he didn't get into trouble for having the knife. He gave me the ugliest look as if I was bothering him and coldly said to me that maybe I should fix my late coming problem before I try to get other people in trouble. I would come late 4 or 5 times a month because my mom's car's battery terminals were broken, so the battery would run flat and she couldn't afford to have it fixed. She had to put the neighbor's battery in her car, start it, and then idle it while she took that battery out and put her own battery back in to charge up. My mom taught me the value of always having a number 10 spanner in your car. I felt betrayed by my teacher, the person who was supposed to make us feel safe while we were away from home. When I spoke to my friends about it, they told me that Xander was actually the principal's son, meaning he was my teacher's nephew. I decided to take the opportunity to speak to my friends about getting evidence that our teacher is treating students unfairly. 3 of my 4 close friends had camera phones. I sat in the far left corner, my one friend sat in the opposite corner by the door, our other friend sat in the middle, and the last friend was right at the back of the class by the window on the left. One thing about our teacher: he did not give a freak about where we sat as long as we answered him when he did roll call and didn't bother anyone when we swapped seats. We came to an agreement that whenever our teacher would sound like he was going to say something vaguely discriminatory, we would all discreetly take videos of him. Any private conversation we had with him was voice recorded on our phones. We caught him on camera telling a really discriminatory joke about black people and saying that Hindus must have a lot of problems since they have so many gods. We caught him saying a lot of bad things, but a lot slipped through our fingers because we weren't fast enough. It was extremely difficult to keep our friend group motivated to record him and not tell anyone else about it. It was especially difficult because at the time I had a hand-me-down Samsung D900, which was seen as an expensive phone at the time. My mom prohibited me from taking it to school. She instead bought a cheap R79, $5 phone for us that could only make calls and send text messages. This was in case she needed to reach us in an emergency. I got caught several times sneaking my camera phone to school. My biggest mess up at school was when my mom phoned me on my Samsung and I answered it. Big oof, but I was a dumb butt. After I think a month, we decided that we couldn't let it go any further. One of our friends was a black guy named Tatenda, fake name. Tatenda was a problem child. His mom died when he was 4 and his dad was an alcoholic. He was raised mostly by his uncle who up until today I think was a pimp. He used to act out at school because of undiagnosed ADHD. His dad and uncle didn't believe in learning disabilities and always assumed he was just lazy and badly behaved. Tatenda especially got onto our teacher's nerves because not only was he black, but because he would bring broken calculators from home and take them apart during class. One day, our teacher told him to clear his desk and throw away the bits of plastic and calculator stuff. He ignored the teacher. The teacher then started screaming at him, and Tatenda did the only logical thing a 12 or 13-year-old would do in such a situation. He mockingly put 2 pencils into his ears. Our teacher lost his crap, grabbed Tatenda, and threw him against the door. The narrow window pane cracked and Tatenda's head was hurt. He told us he was fine during interval afterwards, and we put money together to buy him a Sprite. I almost cried when my friend who sat way behind me said he got the whole thing on camera. We didn't even trust that the whole class's testimony would get him into trouble. We decided that enough was enough. The revenge. First, we showed the video to Tatenda's uncle, who showed it to his father. Then I showed my mom all the other videos and recordings. She lost her mind. One of my friends sent all of it to his older sister who had a Facebook account, and she posted it there and tagged the school and as many parents as she knew. It blew up. Parents and people from around the province phoned the school demanding answers as to what is going to happen to our teacher. He was immediately suspended. There were rumors circulating that he had to go into hiding because Tatenda's uncle and his friends were looking to kill him. I even met Tatenda's dad for the first time in the weeks after the whole thing exploded. He liked to joke that his dad sobered up especially for this. The principal pulled Xander out of school. We never saw him again. My mom told me an investigation was launched against the school because of the improper handling of the bullying complaints. If I remember correctly, 3 English kids in my class alone spoke out against teachers dismissing their complaints of bullying by the Afrikaans kids. We were a mostly white Afrikaans-speaking school with 3 Afrikaans classes but only 1 English class per grade. We only saw our teacher once after he was suspended. He looked badly beaten up and was accompanied by a policeman and 2 other male teachers so he could gather the rest of his stuff from his class. But it didn't end there. Because so many kids needed the evidence that they were being bullied and nothing was done because of it, the CCTV footage was brought up. My friend's mother, who was part of the school governing body at that time, told us a few years ago that when they reviewed the footage, it became apparent that the principal was having an affair with one of the grade 2 teachers. He could be seen grabbing her butt at the furthest point away from the camera. They slipped up a few times and kissed in clear view of the camera, but I guess once you're surrounded by the cameras every day at work, you forget that they're there. It was very apparent that sometimes they thought they couldn't be seen. My mom's friend's sister, basically my aunt, sells Tupperware, and one of her regular customers and close friends is the principal's ex-wife. Not only did she leave him, but they were not married in the community of property due to a prenup agreement. The house they lived in was in her name since before the marriage, so she effectively made him homeless because none of his family wanted to take him in. He ran into severe debt from staying in guest houses and burned many bridges from overstaying his welcome at friends. As for my teacher, his reputation was destination freaked. He served jail time, don't know how long, and eventually left the country because it seemed everyone knew his face from the media attention he received. The reason I made this post: I was never going to tell this story on Reddit as I've told it over and over through the years since primary school, but I felt I had to because of what I experienced at the beginning of this year. My family is part of a non-profit organization that has feeding schemes all over the country. The last Friday feed of February, I'm standing security as I usually do, since we're few volunteers and there's many homeless people and most are on drugs and can get violent. I'm walking down the line to make sure there are no fights or anything that could start a riot, and I see a familiar face. My old principal is standing in the line, waiting for a bowl of stew and bread, with absolutely no idea who's standing beside him. Obviously, he wouldn't have recognized me, but I never forgot his face. I'm not gonna lie, I cried quite a bit behind my sunglasses. Seeing him brought back the feelings I had when I was 12 years old in 7th grade, trying absolutely every excuse in the book to not have to go to school and be bullied by my teacher. So yeah, for those of you who are still reading, this is the end of how my friends and I destroyed the lives of my teacher and principal. Well, first things first, I think when you lead your life living like that and overlooking these issues that affect these children, using nepotism, turning a blind eye to violence and discrimination, it's really not a surprise what happened to the teacher and the principal's lives down the road. Considering what OP and his friends did here involving the camera phones, do you think that almost everywhere in the world there should be protections of some sort made where these kids in these environments can record scenarios where they feel either uncomfortable or threatened? I don't know all of the specifics, but it varies wildly where you are as far as what laws you can and can't do as far as recording, especially in places that aren't public property and without people's consent. So considering what you heard here, do you think it's worth it to try and put protections in where kids can record these scenarios? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Dark909911. Please don't park in my driveway. I live next door to an apartment building, and where their parking lot ends and my driveway starts, there are concrete slabs to show where one ends and the other starts. I even have a sign at the end of the driveway saying private parking, not apartment parking. There is lots of room for all tenants and their visitors, so they don't need to park on my property at all. I called the apartment building landlord and complained a few times because people parking in my yard. He said he has signs all around the building where people can park. Visitor parking and tenant parking, which he does. He said if they park on my property to call a tow company. I woke up one morning to go to work and couldn't get out because some jack mule had parked in my driveway. I called a towing company from a totally different city about 3 hours away. I couldn't wait for them because of work, but asked if they would call when they were all hooked up and I will come home to make sure it's done. I only lived 5 minutes from work and my boss allowed me to go take care of this. When I got home, the car was already loaded onto a flatbed and was just pulling out when the owner of the car came running out hollering for the truck to stop. He didn't. Then the guy looked at me and was very hostile and said, "This is all your fault. You will be paying to get my car back." I just laughed at him and pointed at my sign saying no parking or vehicle will be towed at owner's expense. I had already called the police as well to see if I could do it legally, and they told me since I have signage up for over a year that nothing can be done against me. I told the guy where he can get his car back and he was pissed to say the least. I backed out and went back to work. After work, the landlord came to see me. He said the guy tried to complain to him and telling him it'll either be one of us or both, but someone will be paying to get his car back. He was told the tow charge alone was around $800 because of the distance and a $150 a day storage until it is picked up. I know he got his car back because I saw it parked in the visitor parking a couple of days later. It is funny how after this happened, I have not had another person park in my driveway again. I still get the stink eye every time that guy sees me. I smile and wave each time because I am an a-hole like that. The guy was already clueless and either didn't read the sign or didn't see the sign that said no parking there. And then OP called the tow company that was located 3+ hours away. So the owner had ample time to get back to their vehicle. So not only did OP make them have to pay a lot of money, they gave them ample opportunity to realize that they're not supposed to park there or move their vehicle before the tow truck got there. Not OP's fault. And our final story of the day is by Faust82. Park your BMW like a tick? Well, two can play that game. Being a BMW owner, one of the things that irk me are others giving us a bad name. Sure, I enjoy an active driving style, but I use my blinkers and try not to park like a douche. Well, I normally try not to park like a douche. Drove down into the parking basement at work and noticed there was an available spot that most had given up due to the parking of the BMW X3 in the next slot over. Well, should be more than enough room for a 5 Series next to it, right? I got in just fine, but was too close to the concrete pillar to walk out comfortably. I'd have to squeeze past it. Saw that, repositioned closer to the X3 and had all the space I wanted to get out. Left a nice margin to the parking line too. Sadly for the X3 driver, that didn't leave much space for him. Petty, but I enjoyed it. Not even just BMW, just parking badly in general. If somebody has to do something that corrects their parking job because of your bad parking job, I think you have it coming to you, flat out. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which one and why in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you haven't, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, so no matter what you did, thank you for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.